You're listening to Sudbury News Talk.
I want to show you something.
Stand by. On the morning shift.
Anything
could happen.
Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.
Everyone, good morning. Welcome to Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift. I'm AJ Walsh. Glad to be here with you. Thankful that you're here with us. We're going to get our mic situated here, get everything going. Apologize for being a little late start this morning. Again, technology is what it is and does what it does. So, but at the same time, we're thankful that we have it so that we can actually do something like this, which is broadcast from a remote location, any remote location with a Wi-Fi connection and a few devices and a microphone, go through some software and plug into our local radio station, and voila, an instant radio show from a remote location. So we're grateful for that, although sometimes there's hiccups and glitches, but regardless, we're grateful for the opportunity and just to have the technology. And again, speaking of that, I'm trying to get the show up on Facebook to see how many people we have, and it's complaining a little bit this morning. We have a few people on, and it's people are jumping on right now. So thanks for being with us. Grateful to be with you, and we're live on CKLU 96.7 FM each and every weekday morning between 7:30 and 8:30 a.m. Unless you're getting to a late start, then it's 7:37 a.m. We're also streaming at cklu.ca. Click on the Radio Player Canada app, or you can download it. Download it because I find it can't be played on many browsers. The only browser I have it can be played on is Firefox for some strange reason. And you might find the same thing. So if you want to download the Radio Player Canada app, that's a way to be able to see what's going on. To listen to the show. And if you want to support the radio station while you're there, just make sure to buy some merch, a mug, a t-shirt, a hat, something CKLU. It supports the radio station, keeps the lights on, keeps the airwaves open, and we appreciate all the help that you're able to give us. It's a totally user-supported, not-for-profit organization, right? We're not here to make a profit. We are a campus and community radio station where your conversation on your station happens. That's this show each and every weekday morning, and other great shows as well. Volunteers. It's all volunteer run, and we appreciate any help that you guys are able to give to the station to keep things going. Also, we are streaming live at facebook.com/Sudbury News, youtube.com/Sudbury News. We're found on demand after the show on those two platforms, along with twitter.com/Sudbury News, now X, and Sudbury.news, which is our local news aggregator. All local news comes into one webpage, Sudbury.news. And if you want to see the show on demand on the website, you just click on the Sudbury News Talk tab, and you can watch the show then. But in the meantime, make sure to like, share, subscribe, and follow our social media channels and pages. But mainly comment this morning, because we'll do our best to read your comments for part of the conversation as we discuss the news. We're not here to necessarily deliver the news or uncover the news. We're here to take the news outlets that are already there, already getting paid to do journalism, and promote their stories on the show website as well. Like obviously we're promoting free of charge to these organizations, promoting their news stories. And then we talk about them on this show. We try and unpack things, try and understand, the community that we live in, the world we live in. And it's not always easy. And we welcome those who are around this area on the show, the Sudbury area. Also welcome those who are joining us from abroad, because we have many, many people, I find, joining us from all around the world. And we're grateful for you. And hopefully there's something in this show that you can take away, learn from, or add to, or, it's somewhat entertaining and somewhat informative. So that's our goal. So starting off with that, we'll begin with a little bit of weather. Then we'll be back with your comments, news headlines, a bit of a deep dive into the world stage, the U.S. Donald Trump. That's what people have been talking about, right, on the news. You've heard it all by now, possibly, but maybe a little bit different of a spin on this show this morning, because it's definitely an event that you can't go back and erase it anymore. It's there. It's going to be part of the U.S. history, an assassination attempt on a former president. Whether it was, we'll try and discuss it a little bit. Something, maybe the discussions you might not hear on mainstream media, the things that people are really talking about, not the things that people want you to talk about, right? So we'll be back with a little bit of weather, your comments, and more right after this. And weather brought to you by Duck Check. Visit duckcheck.com to find out how you can have cleaner air in your home by getting your ducts looked at by an inspection and cleaned by experts. And today, I got to put it on the weather, right? Because that's what we're talking about. Here you go. Currently, it's 20 degrees. There's fog out there. And today, mainly cloudy with a 30% chance of showers early in the morning and late this afternoon, with a risk of thunderstorm. The fog patches will be dissipating in the morning, and the high will be 26. Humidex will be 32. UV index 7 or high. Tonight, partly cloudy. 40% chance of showers this evening, risk of thunderstorm, and low of 15. Wednesday, increasing cloudiness early in the morning. 40% chance of showers in the afternoon with a risk of thunderstorm, and a high of 21. UV index 6 or high. Look at your 6-day forecast going forward. Again, 21 degrees, 40% chance of showers for tomorrow. It's still saying that Thursday will be sunny, high of 23, and then partly cloudy, mix of sun and cloud, on Friday with a high of 26, and then a 40% chance of showers on Saturday with a high of 24, mix of sun and cloud on Sunday and Monday, 25 and 26 degrees for both of those days. Look at your satellite. Quite a few clouds over the Sudbury area with some clearing patches. This taken at 5 a.m., so it's rather recent. And that's your Sudbury weather, brought to you by Duck Check. Give them a call, 705-918-4848, or visit them at duckcheck.com, D-U-C-T check.com. Let them know we sent you for your inspection and duct cleaning, and you'll get $100 off your next duct cleaning and inspection. Make sure if you live in the Sudbury area, you can utilize them. Also, they're located in Parry Sound, Muskoka area, Huntsville. So whether you live in Sudbury or that area, they service it all. So we'll be back with your comments, news headlines, and more right after this. Okay, we're back. We have a few people joining us, the regular kind of people that are on. I don't know. I can't see who is on unless you comment, but I see the amount of people that are on. And so, Nana, you're first to the the YouTube party this morning. Good morning, all. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Yes, and the same to you, Nana. And Vin, morning. Good morning to you as well, Vin. Monique, good morning, Sudbury. And Mary Ann, good morning, everyone from Wetbury. You guys are getting quite a few showers down there. Yes, liked and shared as usual. Judy, good morning to you. Denise, blessings on this bird song filled morning. Yes, they would be singing this morning, I'm sure, hoping for a little bit of the wet stuff to get those worms for a little morning snack. Liette, good morning from Collingwood. Thanks, Liette, for joining us. And Debbie, good morning, with a smiley emoji. Sunshine emoji, it looks like. And Vin, in the 80s, what you just described was called pirate radio. LOL. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, just some duct tape and some wires and a microphone and an antenna and a signal, at a certain, frequency. You can tune in and get all kinds of different people in the airwaves. Today's podcast, I guess you can say, right? That's the new version of pirate radio. You can just there's something for everybody. There's just a microphone and a camera and some social media, and you're off to the races. So it's interesting how times have changed, but it's still the same kind of idea. Maurice, good morning to you with a smiley sunshine emoji or a smiley emoji. Okay, I won't get all fixated on the emojis. I know there's probably people saying, why do you have to get the emojis right? But anyways, it's just it's an exercise for my eyes. Good morning, Pat. Thanks for being with us. And Kevin, good morning to you. Good morning, everyone. Hello to my family and friends. Hope all have a great day. Yes, same to you, Kevin. And Denise, right to South Africa. My friend catches the show now and then. Well, cool. Shout out to South Africa. And yeah, so that's where shows are able to reach with the invent of podcasts and internet, and we're the new pirate radio. Where's all the predicted rain? Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, it's I think last week the forecast said tons of rain. There's every day there was 30%, 40% chance of rain, and some days it just said showers, but we only had a short amount of rain through the whole week, maybe 10 minutes worth where I live anyways. So that's interesting. Maybe they need to fix their weather equipment or something to help predict what the weather's going to be like. Marianne, good morning. I will send it your way. We get plenty. I like to share. Well, you are in the belt, so to speak, right? So winter, you got the snow, and I guess in the summer you got the rain. Good for the gardens. You can never get enough rain for the gardens, that's for sure. And here we are. We're ready to go through the headlines of the day, brought to you by Sudbury.news, where you can catch all your local news aggregated into one convenient location. And then we'll do a bit of a deep dive today into the state of politics in the United States and Canada, where we live. So, Claire, good morning in Sudbury, ! Good morning to you as well, Claire. So, checking out our Sudbury.news webpage here this morning. We'll go through some of the headlines. So, Freedom Convoy organizer from the Sioux, Pat King, will not testify at his own trial. The trial also being delayed at the request of the defense. So for more on that, you visit Sudbury.com. And again, I was surprised to learn Pat King was from the Sioux maybe a month or two ago. I wasn't aware of that. He's quite popular amongst, the people that are in the know with the Freedom Convoy. Many people feel that he might be a plant or something like that. He's not really legitimately, someone who's just independent for the cause, that he has some type of ties with the government or whatever. But again, you hear all kinds of things, and you just never know. You just never know with things like that. But anyways, he's going through his trial for, I guess, things that happened during the protest in Ottawa. We'll have to see how that turns out. And Nancy, good morning. Ava heard you. She says hi and have a good day. And hello, Ava. Good morning. I hope you're having a good morning. Along with you, Nancy. Thanks for coming on and being with us. Did anyone see London, Ontario yesterday? The flooding was unbelievable. That's Marianne. No, I did not. And so I guess flooding in London. Denise says he's not only from Sault Ste. Marie. They've made a convoy to Ottawa at least 4 times. Every time they come, they fill their pockets. Okay, so this is some of the things I'm hearing as well. Like not the most positive in terms of the movement itself, right? Like, so sure he's going to court and with some charges from the government, but so the government, at least uh, in the perception of things, aren't a fan of Pat King, but it looks like the movement themselves, there's many there that don't feel that he's their representative or a representative of the movement for freedom or for government to decrease regulations, especially like we saw during the uh, the 2 weeks of, flatten the curve. Remember that 2 weeks? We just need to shut down our economy and our society for 2 weeks, and it ended up like 3 to 4 years. Anyways, so the movement of people that were like, what? And all of the regulations and the rhetoric, the hate speech from our government to people that wouldn't go along with what they were saying everyone needed to do, just short of forcing everybody. They did everything they could do to force, other than come to your house and do it for you at gunpoint. That you would lose your job. You would be shamed by the media, shamed by your family members who basically, have a belief that everything a government official will say is like, they're like a prophet from God kind of thing. So, yeah, after that, so there's people that wanted to stand up to that and say, I think you're overstepping your bounds just a tad. And now the people from that movement, the movement themselves, either are for you or smell a rat. So Denise says, when the truckers went to Ottawa, they said they weren't going to leave till things were fixed. When the police threatened them, they left back to the west. It was the Ontario citizens mostly that stood there, that stood there against those police and a few truckers, but the convoy that came in left. Okay, there you go. Oh yes, and Marianne said his grandmother is from Powassan. Did not know that either. Yeah, there was a lot of damage that was caused the last 4 years or so on many people. Many people lost their livelihoods, lost their identities. There was rampant abuse. There was a lot of abuse in the home because there's the stress levels financially and being locked up for that long of time. There were many, many things that if we were to actually go back and review like we were supposed to, like you would, but the government refused to do that. They don't want to look at what they did good or what they can improve on next time. If there is a next time, they're just going to keep going ahead and doing the same things over and over, expecting different results possibly. But Bob says, I would bet 3 pennies to Kai name that Pat King is a Fed or a fraud. Okay, yes, you would bet that Pat King is a Fed or a fraud. That's what I kind of figured. A lot of people feel that way. So, and our vets told us the best way to cripple Ottawa was to occupy our town halls. Every convoy, every side of the road, freak show takes everything away from the town halls. We had 4 years to build courage at the halls, 4 years to keep going to build courage in our communities where you live. For sure. And I think we still need to be doing that. We still need to be working together for the common good of everybody. Now, they use that same analogy, right? We're all in this together. You have to get everything we tell you, do everything we tell you, because we're all in this together. But that's top down speak. That's not bottom up speak. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're the ones making all of those restrictions and policies and then forcing them on citizens and then trying to have a marketing campaign, to put those things on your Facebook thing saying just stay home and hey, I just got the you know what. Yeah. You know how many Facebook pages I've seen with people that were promoting the fact that they just got the you know what, and then they're like, "Oh, I'm really sick. I don't know what's going on. I'm not sure. I can't feel my legs, or I just had a stroke or something like that." And then eventually, it's like everybody putting condolences on their Facebook pages. It's very common. I'm sure if it wasn't such a political thing and someone would be just shut down by social media, a documentary with that showing how many people, if someone actually showed all the examples of that back to back to back, it would be frightening. Yes. But we won't have that for a long time. Monique, good morning, everyone, with a heart emoji. Marianne says, I guess London gets it all. Or Pat speaking to Marianne. Sorry about that. Okay, so Denise, what judge tells you can go on the internet to collect money, but just that's it. That's all. I guess according to Pat, this is another Pat King reference. Marianne says, I live in a military town. Not all are asleep, but a lot are. Okay, so I guess you have some people that are in the military that you speak to that you can kind of get their point of view. You would think they'd all be kind of awake to what's going on. I know my grandfather was both my grandfathers were in the war, but I'm speaking of one right now. And, he went and lied about his age. Both of them did. And lied about his age. He was too young to go into the army, but he got into the army at a younger age than he needed to. He was deployed. He was in the front lines in World War II. He was shot either in the stomach or the head. I can't remember which one took place first. Went back onto the front lines again and was shot a second time. Both of them were the same, shot in the stomach and shot in the head. Both had steel plates in their foreheads. But the one grandfather that I'm speaking of realized that it wasn't all that it was, marketed to be, the war. Like he started waking up a bit while he was over there, asking questions and going, what am I doing here? I'm going house to house to house and killing. It's like, for what? And then you start hearing things of reasons for things that are going on. And you're like, wait a minute. Like if you were really fighting for a purpose, that's one thing. But when it's for the purpose of a few at the top, then, and you're now realizing it and you've done atrocious things thinking that you were doing it, for the right reasons. So I'm just speaking of what Marion was talking about, people in the military waking up or realizing what's really going on, what their role really is for, who's utilizing them, kind of thing, for what reasons. For my grandfather, it was huge. Like he never recovered from that his whole life. Denise, good morning, everyone. Like and share. Love your show. Thank you very much, Denise. Lots of good info. Thank you. I appreciate that. I politely tell people to do their research about what we were just talking about and why they are sick. Yes, that was Marianne. The graveyards are frightening. Somebody should be doing statistics at the graveyard and then go talk to the funeral directors. That's true. Insurance companies, all the stats that they had during the last 4 years or whatever, they have some pretty telling statistics for sure. And funeral directors, the people that do the embalming, we're seeing incredible things as well that say a lot of negative things towards what they were finding in people after that, and so on and so forth, right? There's so much. And I'm talking to you guys mainly on the show, but the people that are listening, if you haven't really looked into it, it's quite revealing. There's lots to find out there if you really want to find it out. Oh, you live by Bay Sport, and yes, it is right around Barrie there. I still see a lot of brainwashed seniors wearing masks. It's heartbreaking. True, there are a few people. Yeah, it's sad to just think that people are living in fear. And if you're wearing a mask, to me, again, and you know what? I think the idea of a free country, I wish we were like this before, when all the hype about masks was going on, that people on the other side would have just been just as open, like live and let live. You don't want to wear a mask, don't wear a mask. If you want to put your own life at risk. But then they'd say, well, you're putting others' lives at risk. But how could you do that if you're wearing a mask? If you really believe in the mask, no one else is putting your life at risk. You know how hard that common sense was able to get through to people during that time? They're like, yeah, the masks work. You need to be wearing your mask because you're putting other people at risk. So do you realize you just contradicted yourself there? So if you have a mask, it's protecting you, right? From what? From the air, right? The dangers in the air. But you need to be wearing a mask too. Well, why? Well, because you're going to infect other people or whatever. No, but if you're wearing a mask, you're safe no matter what, right? Well, and then they go into this other kind of thing. Well, it's not 100% and the droplets and this, that, and the other. So do you remember how dumb that was? But people, and at least the majority of people now, at least to that, I think a lot of people just go along with what the masses do too. They're just going to go along with everything. So if you're in the grocery store and you're the only one not wearing one, like it's like, oh no, I'm the only one. It's like you got to be a pretty strong character to endure that. And then especially if the manager comes over and asks you to leave, it's our policy and all these things, you have to have a pretty thick skin, to kind of stand up for the right point, is that if you have a mask, you should be safe if you believe in it, right? And if you don't, there's a problem. That's my point in the first place. Masks don't do anything. So why are you wearing one in the first place? People driving alone in their vehicles, yes, exactly, or walking down the street alone wearing one. I know it's interesting. The psychology of it all. I'm just perplexed. Why so many in the military return with PTSD? War is not what it's all cracked up to be. Who really profits and benefits? Only those in the upper echelon and at the expense of innocent lives. Very true. Miles says, good morning. My father fought on the front lines, World War II. Day 18, wounded 4 times. Ouch. Last by a flamethrower. We found all this out from the archives in Ottawa, as my father never talked about it, and that is true of my grandfather as well. I was only able to as a little boy. A lot of times I would talk to other members of my family and said, how did you get him to talk? But I guess I was innocent enough, and I was a little boy, and I was asking innocent questions, and my grandfather just little tidbits of information he was giving me. He would keep it very simple and light. And but yeah, no, he was an alcoholic due to trying to deal with the traumas that he went through, and never recovered from that. And yeah, it left deep, deep, deep scars on him and many other people, including your father, Miles. Marianne says, for what little I wore a mask, I got an infection on my face and went septic. That is how bad it is. I will never wear another one. That's Marianne. I know, eh? It seemed like, when you wear the mask, when you inhale, your body's designed to inhale good air, and you let out the bad air. You exhale bad air. So when you're wearing the mask, it keeps you're breathing your bad air in all the time. Like, to me, there's more arguments to be made for it being detrimental than good. Like, are you meant to breathe your exhaled air in all the time? And some people wear masks for most of the day. That's not healthy. And it gets condensation. It gets all wet from your breathing, right? And what's that doing? What's what kind of bacteria is forming and stuff like that in your mask? Again, like if just people would just be able to talk out loud and just really have some common sense with it all, it's really not that complicated. I think the vets never talked about the war because they were told not to cause of the lies and deceptions of what it really war was about. Yeah, exactly. So they were able to really kind of make sense of, wait a minute, is this really what's going on while they were over there? And back then too, this was before even people really talked about at length the idea of conspiratorial things going on at the highest levels. I mean, this is almost a new phenomenon, right? Where some people are actually able to get a lot of information about a lot of facts of a lot of things that were done at the highest levels over time that weren't what they told the public, right? But they would, and again, so no social media back then, they would feel they would be all alone if they were to say things, and who would listen anyways or what, and it would be hard to verbalize it, hard to process it. What, I did all these atrocious things, possibly even killed innocent people for this, and they have to live with that afterwards, very hard to carry around with you the rest of your life and then raise a family, have a job, maintain a normal life after that. There's a reason why military are not allowed to have political opinions. Let that sink in. Yeah, we'll just let that perforate throughout the ether there. There's a reason why the military are not allowed to have political opinions. Let that sink in. So that's from Marianne. Dan says, just sharing a link there. Cycling news. France reintroduces masks and COVID-19 concerns. So interesting. Okay, there's a link there if everyone wants to see it. I guess France is kind of going backwards there. And I don't know. My prediction is that we're going to see all this stuff again really soon. All indications point to the next one, if you will. The first one was just a kind of trial run for our society to see how we would respond and make sure that they had everything in order in terms of all of the authorities, and whether they be medical or political or science or the police, and just make sure everyone was doing their part and make sure that they weeded out some of the ones that weren't going along with stuff. And then the next round, the numbers will be more people in favor of their kind of draconian lockdowns and forcing people to do things. Intel from the East, things are getting really heated up in Europe, Israel, Iran, Libya. Lots is going on. We really need to prepare for war. And I agree, Denise. I think it seems as though, and we will be talking about this in a bit, because there are some distractions going on, right, in the world, distracting us away from seeing what's really, or at least paying attention to what's really going on. Things are ramping up. Whether they go all the way or not, they are ramping up either way. The visual of masks normalized has encouraged Antifa-minded to stand with less accountability, protected anonymity. Oh, you're right on that too. So if you're going to go out and do terrorist acts, let's say, in whatever name you're doing them in, you can put a mask on and you can walk around in a mask. No one would suspect something. Now you rewind 10 years ago and you saw someone walking down the street with a mask or entering a bank with a mask. Can you imagine that? 10 years ago, someone walking into a bank with a mask on, what would happen? There'd be mayhem because people would be like, whoa, something's about to go down. But now, masks, someone walks into a bank with a mask, no one thinks anything. And they could then pull out a gun and rob it and do whatever, right? Because no one's suspecting that. But so yeah, good point there, Vin. I appreciate it. So Denise, remember the fee was $30,000 to $50,000 a head for people that they could unlive. I don't know exactly what that means, but maybe I remember the $30,000 they would write on the death certificate to get paid in order to qualify it as a particular kind of death. That way the numbers would be added. Very sad, Marianne. Yeah, for sure. Liette says there is and was credentialed evidence of the health dangers of mask wearing and proof that masks don't work to stop a virus. 100%, 150,000%, and still is evidence. So you go out into a cold day with your mask and you breathe and you can see the fog coming right out of your mask. I don't need anything else other than that. That tells me, what is it protecting anyone from? Your air is going right through your mask. So it's not doing anything, And then to think someone else wearing a mask is going to protect you if you're wearing your mask. So your mask is protecting you. And then the fact that someone else isn't wearing one is dangerous to you. You're wearing your mask. So you're supposed to believe that your mask is protecting you. But now all of a sudden you don't if someone else isn't wearing it. So I really don't understand what you're thinking. I really don't. Okay. Already told my doctor, won't ever wear one again. Exemption letter. Oh yeah, but that'll be out the window for the next round for sure. It won't be the same. Virus doesn't exist, so that's unique. Well, again, does a cold virus exist? It does, but is it as dangerous as was being told to people? That's another thing, right? I think that's probably what you're meaning there. Anything airborne gets through those masks, and that is true. So a lot of information on the masks here, but we're going to move on just because we got to make sure we got enough time for a couple more news headlines and then our deep dive for the day. So we'll make sure to get your comments up on the screen for those watching either live or on demand afterwards. Laurentian University ratifies new collective agreement with staff union. A new collective agreement with its staff union is a sign Laurentian University is moving in a positive direction, says Laurentian's president and vice chancellor. Now I read in the news, just not in this article, I'm sure, that's from CBC, that they're going to get a 4% increase every year in wages. 4% increase every year in wages. And they're back on track in a positive direction. To me, when I heard that, it sounds like you're back on the same track you were on before, because that's what I knew you were going to do. You were just going to go back to the same. Nothing's going to change. You're not going to do anything different with the way you manage money, the way that you pay people, everything. It's all the same. Nothing's going to change. The only thing that's going to change is that you won't be able to go bankrupt the next time, and that you'll just seek other help from the government, kind of thing. So we'll see. That's I guess that's just my sense of things. And so moving on here, let's see what we got. We got interesting happenings in the U.S. of A., right? I don't know what's. Oh yeah, that's what it is. Okay, so is that a reel or is that
ridiculous
no,
pretenses?
it's not a reel. So let's just go here and remember this. So we see the there was an assassination attempt on Donald Trump, right? And people are now finding out all kinds of things about why there was a shooter on a roof and no one was able to, people were able to see this particular shooter, but no one was able to do anything about it. Everyone stood down. And even though there were government snipers on roofs looking at the guy, they were told that he was there by citizens. The police even went up on the roof and saw him and then went back down after the shooter pointed a rifle at one of the police officers. So there's minutes going by here where nothing is being done about this, right? Well, the facts about that will come out in the days ahead, and maybe we'll find out more about that. But Tucker Carlson actually a few months back sort of predicted this happening, right? And he explains a little bit why. So we'll be back right after his explanation.
Are they going to let Trump be president?
They protested him. They called him names. He won anyway. They impeached him twice on ridiculous pretenses. They fabricated a lot about what happened on January 6th in order to impeach him again. It didn't work. He came back. Then they indicted him. It didn't work. He became more popular. Then they indicted him 3 more times, and every single time his popularity rose. So if you begin with criticism, then you go to protest, then you go to impeachment, now you go to indictment, and none of them work, what's next? I mean, graph it out, man. We're speeding toward assassination. Obviously, permanent Washington, both parties have decided that there's something about Trump that's so threatening to them, they just can't have him. I don't know where it's going, but there's a collision that's clearly imminent. And by the way, the president is senile in a way that's impossible to deny. Biden's not running the government, so I don't know. I've never been this worried about anything as I am about where this is going.
Are they going?
Right. So this was a few months back. I guess he called it. But is it for the reasons why he said? Is it because, first of all, they tried to stop him from getting elected in the first place? He got elected, and then they tried to impeach him. They couldn't impeach him, and then they indicted him, and then this, and then all that, and then they can't seem to stop him. So there's only one next thing he can do. But he said Biden was incompetent, right, and that he's not really running the government. And we've seen a couple things lately that kind of show that, right? So this was one thing at the NATO summit the other day that he said that Donald Trump was going to be his vice president. Remember him saying that?
What concerns do you have about Vice President Harris's ability to beat Donald Trump if she were at the top of the ticket?
Look, I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, but I think she was not qualified to be president. So let's start there. Number one.
So is that interesting, or is that interesting? Is that real, or is that staged? Was he just reading off a teleprompter and somebody wanted him to say that for some strange reason? Right? So I'm open to these things. What's going on? Is this all just theater? Is he he's been saying things like this his whole presidency. I mean, he won the presidency from a campaign in the basement to begin with. You know what I mean? And he got more votes than any other president ever in the history of elections in the United States. But Donald Trump also beat that record, losing in that election, which would make anybody's, question what's really going on. But then he also introduced Zelensky as Putin. Do you remember this at the same conference?
I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. President Putin. He's going to beat President Putin. President Zelensky. I'm so focused on beating Putin, we got to worry about it. Anyway, Mr. President.
I'm better.
You are a hell of a lot better.
Right. So whether real or he's just reading off a teleprompter and somebody's trying to tank him, trying to do this to him on purpose so that way they can say, see, we need someone else. We're not sure. We're not entirely sure what's going on, but it's going on regardless. But John Stossel really, he's one of these journalists that I really look up to. I just like his style of journalism. And he puts it in perspective, the whole idea of government in the first place and why people are making such a big deal of the president. He makes an argument that we shouldn't really be making too big of a deal.
Biden just doesn't get it.
Running for president, Joe Biden made this claim.
I'm going to say something outrageous. I know how to make government work.
It was outrageous. The truth is, no one can make government work. The president hasn't.
Everything is more expensive these days.
Biden's spending made inflation worse. He spends so much, he can't even keep track of it.
Over $1.3 billion.
The border is not secure.
Even Democrats admit.
The border's not secure.
And the burden on our children increased.
Gross national debt surpassed $34 trillion.
It's a hubris that the government knows best.
Economist Ed Stringham says no government will ever work well because
even the best person can't implement change.
What I realized after years of consumer reporting is that maybe at the beginning they'll get people in government who are just as good or better than the private sector, but they can't improve. They can't fire the bad people. In the private sector, everybody's making changes all the time, looking to make things better. In government, you can't do that without an act of Congress sometimes. And so over time, government always stagnates.
The massive bureaucracy gets bigger and bigger, slower and slower.
The website has been too slow. People have been getting stuck.
Government creations routinely fail. When the Obamacare site first launched, millions tried to use it. But it only worked for 6 people.
So Miles makes a good point here. He says we should be focusing more on Canadian politics rather than, focusing on American. But while people are listening to this or watching this, could you make any connections to Canadian examples that are similar to this, like making websites that don't work, let's say? Can you remember the ArriveCan app that could be made for like $60,000 at the most, but we ended up spending $100 million on the thing and going to questionable people receiving the money for it? Can we think of some examples? So just in general, governments in general, it doesn't even have to be necessarily the United States, but they're making examples. They're using examples from the United States, but this same thing could be made about Canada's politics as well and the government in Canada.
The White House promising the new federal health insurance website will be fully fixed. The problems are much worse than we've been told.
Vice President Biden made excuses for Obama.
Neither he and I are technology geeks, and we assumed that it was up and ready to run.
If they can't design a basic, simple website, how are they going to manage half the economy?
Well, government fixed the Obamacare site. The private sector created lots of amazing things.
The center of your digital life into the cloud.
Things that work.
Welcome to Uber. A reliable ride is always just minutes away.
The private sector creates things that work because it has to. If you don't serve your customers well, you go out of business. But government never goes out of business, so it has little incentive to improve. As a result, it isn't even efficient at doing what it's supposed to do: protect us.
The chaotic and deadly U.S. evacuation from Afghanistan.
The government does have powerful equipment, but it squanders billions creating it.
The Pentagon has failed another audit.
If a private company fails repeated audits, they get shut down. But government never gets shut down.
Absolutely. They can waste money for decade after decade, and they just don't care.
We're working on improving our process. We certainly are learning each time.
We're learning each time.
Oh, well, we'll do better next time. It's like we're living in Groundhog Day.
The same day, over and over.
Another year gone by, another Pentagon audit failed.
Government's even bad at solving problems it creates.
President Biden's $1.9 trillion COVID relief package.
When COVID hit, politicians handed out almost $2 trillion with little debate. It was needed, they say, because they shut businesses indefinitely.
The U.S. economy may be able to start reopening as early as next month. That's according to Dr. Anthony Fauci.
Let's shut down the economy. Oh, I didn't know anything bad would happen. Oh, now we have to spend billions and trillions of dollars.
One problem is that when you spend other people's money, you don't spend it so carefully.
COVID-related fraud is staggering. Government agencies failed to verify many of the claims.
Oops, it went to the wrong people.
One woman bought a Bentley. Another father and son bought a luxury home.
President Biden did notice the fraud.
We're going to make you pay back what you stole and hold you accountable under the law.
There will always be cheaters, but they're recovering the losses.
It's a very small percentage, just a couple $500 million of the billions of fraud.
Even without fraud, governments spend millions on things like a small bathroom in a park and billions on things that never get built.
A network of 500,000 charging stations.
The president promised government would build thousands of charging stations. They'd cost taxpayers
$7.5 billion.
But after 2 years, they've built only 7. And yet greedy Amazon installed 17,000.
This is how we charge our vehicles.
Whenever we think something's important, I think we should be questioning whether the government should be doing it.
Private's always more efficient because competition makes us better.
Companies can only stay in business if they're always keeping their customer happy.
Politicians say we get fired all the time. Voters can vote us out.
With a free market, the consumer's voting every single day with the dollar. Under politics, we have to wait 4 years.
Markets just work better. It's absurd for any politician to say,
I know how to make government work.
We need limited government, but no one knows how to make government work well.
I never knew the swamp was so bad.
Biden's opponent can't deliver on his big claim either.
We're draining the Washington swamp.
Next week, it's Trump's turn for a video.
Yeah, we look forward to that. I'll share that as well, because we try to be as non-biased as possible and be open-minded to any possibility whatsoever, just to try and uncover what's really going on in the world, make sense of things, connect some dots. You know, it's not one-sided in terms of one political party or another. Some might have, public views or whatever that relate or kind of resonate with some of us more than others, but really all are part of the government. You know what I mean? And there's bureaucracy, and then there's people who are elected, and it's, and to give an example of Canadian oversight or incompetence, if you look at the CRA, which is Canada Revenue Agency, they're in charge of managing our money, collecting all the taxes, dispersing, tax, rebates to Canadians and things. All the money goes through the Revenue Canada. So that's the backbone of our money collection in Canada. Did you know they spent over $1 billion on a payroll system for the Canadian government called Phoenix? It's still not made. I think it's over 10 years now. They've been trying to make this thing over $1 billion, and it still doesn't work. Right? So that tells you something. That's the people controlling your money trying to make a payroll system. They can't, because it's government. It's big government. If they would have contracted that out possibly to the private sector in the right way, not by people's friends making money kind of thing, it would have been done right. And it's just a really good example of that. And we'll have more on subsequent shows. We really appreciate you joining us today. It's all the time we got. But we'll be back, God willing, same time, same place tomorrow on all the same platforms, including CKLU 96.7, in which now we're going to be playing Earshot Daily. So stay tuned for that. We'll see you all tomorrow. Stay safe, everyone. Have a great one. Ciao.
This is Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.